All right. The meeting will come to order. And I'm pleased to see everyone. I hope you're staying warm. This is unexpected weather for me, but I know some of you all like the cold and the snow, but I'm a Southern girl.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So I anticipated Mr. Waters being on tonight. However,
Excuse me, Dr. Darby. I see that Mr. Waters is he's outside. He's in the waiting room.
Is he? Okay.
Stephanie, can you let Mr. Waters in?
Yep,
Make sure everybody's in. I gave you hosting. I'm
Yep.
sorry, I gave you hosting.
Yep,
I'm sorry to interrupt, Dr. Darby.
Okay, no problem. We'll wait for him to come in.
Okay, he should get in now.
There he is.
Very good.
So sorry, I followed the link that was on the Google Drive, and that's how it took me in.
Okay. Mr. Waters, I just called the meeting to order, but I will inform the board that I've asked Mr. Waters to take over tonight because I've been grading papers all day and still have papers to grade. I'm going to be with you for an hour because I really have to manage my time. And Mr. Waters will take over for tonight.
Okay, if you could, I was in the process of getting my desktop set up, so I apologize that I'm not more prepared, but what I can do, you called the meeting to order.
Yes.
And looking around the room, let's see.
We are here.
So everybody.
We're all here.
Yeah, we're here.
So there's nothing to do around that. Is there a motion to approve the meetings from the October meeting?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. And the motion passes. The chair's report. I'm not the chair and I'm just sitting in for the chair tonight. I would like to identify that today is December 1st, understood and recognizing it as World AIDS Day. We don't often talk about police and HIV, but we do know that there are many, many police officers who have lost their lives to HIV and many living with it. Many don't feel that it's something that they can share, and it can be a rough road. So in lieu of World AIDS Day, I would just like to recognize the police officers that we've lost, as well as all of those that we've lost to HIV. Bring my agenda back up here. The executive director's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. As you all know, we had a resounding victory in the passage of the referendum on November 3rd. The final certified vote was 118,479 in favor, with 32,781 opposed. It yielded a 78.33% approval, which is remarkable.
Awesome.
An overwhelming margin there. So we certainly have the public's trust, and now we must fulfill it. The changes that were adopted, the amendments to the Home Rule Charter, do a number of things, but mostly leverage the power of the three independents in the city. The city controller, who of course is elected, the Commission on Human Relations, which is the other independent standing commission in the city, and you, the Independent Citizen Police Review Board. As you recall, the proposal has us doing, in conjunction with the city controller, performance audits on the Bureau of Police. And it also assures the public that any complaint that we suspect there may be some unlawful practice involved in the allegations, that we would refer that to the Commission on Human Relations for them to fully vet it. And if they found cause to go forward, to adjudicate the complaint. Of course, that would require that the complainant cooperate with the commission's investigations, et cetera. But our duty would be to assure that the commission is made aware of it. I've already met with the acting director at the HRC, and we've agreed we'll establish protocols that operate through a memorandum of understanding. And they seem to be in agreement with that. So we're working on that. We, of course, can't facilitate any of these changes until amendments have been made to the city code. And right now, city council is very busy in the budget season because, as you know, the city has a rather dire forecast because of the loss of revenue related to the COVID pandemic. So once they're wrapped up with their budget business, I'm sure we'll be getting to the amendments to the city code necessary to implement the changes in the home rule charter. In addition to those procedural, using the relationship between the commission and the controller and you, there is a provision that directs the chief and all members, sworn members of the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police, to participate in your investigations and inquiries. That will also, it's a different message now. As you know, in the existing ordinance, there was a requirement that they cooperate, but this emphasizes that and expresses it as the will of the people. And so we will go forward with that in mind and make whatever minimal changes we have to make to our operations to assure that we can comply to that. And the other major aspect of the proposal in the referendum was your protection, that you now are protected from at-will removal by the mayor. It would require cause, and it would have to be approved by city council. So that allows and assures that you have the protections necessary to do your job without fear or favor. So all in all, it was a wonderfully wonderful effort to enhance your ability to influence policing and the practices of policing in the city of Pittsburgh. So now it's up to us to just fulfill that. Once those code amendments are made, we will look at our rules and operating procedures to determine if there must be any changes to them. I mean, obviously, when you read the referendum, you recognize that most of these things are directed at other people. Your rules and operating procedures may need to be tinkered with, but if we have to change them, it would require a public hearing, and we would not get to that until sometime in the spring. The Densis contract, which seems to have been with us for a long time, City Council approved, authorized the contract finally on November 9th, and it was signed by the mayor. The final vote at council was 7-2. The contract language right now, the document is in the law department. We're waiting for it to come out so it can be signed. And the Densis group, our understanding is they're fine with it. We did provide them a preview of the contract. So as soon as we get it signed by the city, we'll be ready to go with that. Our website, and Mr. Waters has been astute with that. We do have a lot of excavation to do with that website, and it's underway. We have an agreement with our guy to begin that work, to make it more mobile friendly, to be more interactive, and to include our online journal and just a complete redo of the website. So, that takes time. Mr. Waters can affirm that, but it is underway. We've reached the agreement to get that done. As far as the budget goes for next year, we have not been harmed. We do not have in the mayor's budget proposal an additional staff person, which we had hoped for, but we didn't lose any staff either. The budget for the city, as I said, is grim, but it's we made our cuts earlier in the year. We anticipated what was required. Stephanie was able to cull that without doing any significant harm to our operations. Excuse me, I have a. I'm sorry, folks, that was a dog pushing the table. So anyway, the website redo will not be affected by that. That's already considered and taken care of. We had a couple of outside activities since last we were together. One was with Global Pittsburgh, their visitors program, which is an international visitors program that they do in conjunction with the United States State Department. And on November 5th, we met with a delegation through the Transparency and Accountability in Government project. This delegation was comprised of people from Angola, Brazil, Guinea-Bissau, Sao Tome, and Principe. A very interesting conversation about, the differences. The people who were in this delegation were officials of their respective governments that were involved in activities similar to what an inspector general would do, or a fraud investigator. So it was interesting to compare how we do our oversight and how that fits into the general government operation with a group of people who were basically colleagues. It was a good discussion. And, they're always interesting and provocative in the sense of, how do you do this? Maybe we could learn something from them, just as they come here to learn something from us. It was a good delegation. And second, we visited with La Roche Inclusion Group. And that was on November the 19th. Again, general discussion about what is police oversight, law enforcement oversight and accountability. And on Tuesday, a week ago today, County Council introduced legislation that includes the ombudsman that we had talked about and that we had recommended to County Council. And the legislation right now has an ombudsman and a review board built into it. They may be looking, or it'd probably be a good idea to separate them somehow, but whatever. That ombudsman with a central support office for the local police departments is included in their legislation. So that's an addition to the oversight in the county that may or may not come about. I believe that's all I have for you. I believe, Mr. Waters, in your agenda, you probably have some other matters that we can discuss that would be appropriately under old business or new business rather than contained in my report.
Thank you, Madam Executive Director. Does anyone have any questions on this report?
Just like for us to follow up on the densest report. Beth, I think we're expecting that by the beginning of the year.
Well, if the law department returns the contract, it's possible. I would hope that by your January meeting, you would have it.
Okay, so more towards the end of the month, because they had done some preliminary work, I believe, even though they didn't have the contract.
Yeah. Well, we're hesitant to engage them to
do anything without the contract.
Yeah, and not because they wouldn't be willing to do it, but I don't want to jeopardize them being paid for it. So until we have that contract signed, I don't want to risk that they would do all the work and then we'd be ending up trying to explain why we can't pay them, which would not be the board's intention, but would be a function of the city's bureaucracy.
Correct. So when the report is finished, we will review it. What is the process we're going to follow before we give it to the mayor?
You will review it and decide what you want to accept from the densest evaluation.
Okay,
What we offer you from the staff side, we'll have that all compiled. And you can determine what contents you want to go forward or not.
okay. All right.
Any other questions? I would just like to add that I was really gratified to see the referendum pass by the large margin that it did. I think it really also demonstrates that the community really wants to see change with the Pittsburgh Police. The community really believes that this is the time for change to happen, and we play a critical role in helping that by being an independent board that helps bring to the community information and transparency. And so, yes, it was very gratifying to see that. I think the item that Madam Executive Director is referring to is, I saw in an email the suggestion that we do something with the public hearing that we have discussed and it put on hold. At a previous meeting, we voted unanimously to hold a public hearing to discuss issues surrounding police procedure and policies and methodologies surrounding police and bars and drinking. And then at a separate meeting at the beginning of the year, as we were starting to deal with COVID and we were having trouble getting materials back from OMI, we again voted unanimously to table the timing of that public forum, that public hearing. At the last meeting, the chief and one of the chief's assistants came and made some comments to us about what they have been doing. But it remains kind of on our slate that we voted unanimously to hold a public hearing. So, yes, Karen.
One comment to this topic, not necessarily to what you said, but what I can tell you from personal experience, and I'm sure that Sheldon will back me up on this.
Before you say that, could we have a motion and a second and then open up discussion? Because I think what you're going to say will be really important, but it really belongs in the discussion of a motion. I don't mean to shut you down. I just want to make sure that we follow process. Is there a motion to discuss this public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
I'll
A motion
second.
Been made and then seconded. Then I would also like to relinquish the gavel during this portion of the meeting because I have strong feelings on this as well. Would somebody like to become chair while we discuss the motion before us?
I'll step back into the chair.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, and I'm sorry, Karen, I interrupted you.
Not a problem. What I wanted to say was that even though oversight is necessary and that the police department does need backup eyes and ears so that they can run the best police department that they can, what I want to tell you and let you know is that our police department is one of the best in the nation, and that they have made tremendous strides that a lot of people don't know about because they don't go around bragging about the good things that they do or the good programs that they implement. So I really caution people about taking a stand that the police department is antiquated and needs to be brought up to date. Is there room for improvement? As long as there is a police department into the future, there will always be room for improvement. However, it would be remiss if we did not mention the great strides that they've already accomplished.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McClellan. Anyone else has comments? Mr. Thomas, Mr. Waters, I believe you had some comments.
Well, I do. I first of all really want to acknowledge what Ms. McClellan has shared, and she is right that our police department works very, very hard to improve and to do things better. And many of us don't know what those things are. Some of that is about the police just doing their job, and it happens all around us, and it's transparent to us because they're doing it very well. But we were brought into being as a body because the public didn't feel that they knew enough about what was going on with police and police reform and police change. From my perspective, we hold a very important role of being one that helps create transparency, being something that helps improve community police relations by helping the public understand just what the police does do. And those items, transparency and building trust, are critically important elements of our mission. I think we do ourselves a disservice, and others do too, if what we do is treated as only finding fault with the police. But what we ought to be understood as doing is fact finding, recommendation creating, and an interface that enables information to get out to the community in a community consumable way so that the community understands. And in that way, we are not public relations for the police. They can do that on their own, but we are a conduit by which we help the community understand. And that understanding is best with facts and fact finding and sharing of facts. I believe that the motion before us, which is about a public hearing that we as a board unanimously voted for, actually twice, was really not connected to one specific incident, even though in our last meeting, comments were kind of connected to one incident more than another. But you will remember there was also an incident where it was reported that the police were responsible for extremely large bar tabs at a strip club. And that was actually the incident, that report, and how that came to the board was actually the incident that led to the motion I raised to hold this public hearing for fact finding. And so I do not want to be in the business of simply finding fault with the police, but I do want to be in the business of creating transparency for the community. And therefore, I believe that this public hearing is an important thing for us to continue to have. I think we have to recognize that because there is a lawsuit, we may have difficulty getting officers and others associated with the police to speak under oath in our public hearing. So I think we have to go into a public hearing recognizing that it could be very limited, but that doesn't change the fact that a public hearing is our primary tool by which we help create transparency for the community and we help build trust between the community and the police. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. I just want to say that when we voted at the beginning of the year, it was a different time. And for me, a different sense of what I had hoped to get out of the public hearing. At this point, if we were to move forward, we have to rethink some of the processes we would have included at the beginning of the year. And I think that it has to be a little more pointed and a little more structured because of the technology we're using, because of the public that we will probably attract. And I know that, and I'm putting on my teacher hat right now, if you have it structured in such of a way that it's around a particular topic, people will understand better why we want to hold the public hearing. So with that in mind, I would want us to think about the votes we've taken, and just get some feedback from the other members, because time is precious and time is money. And we want to keep the public informed, but at the same time, we want it to be effective. So with that in mind, I would like to hear what some of the other members, have to say about that. And let's just discuss it to make sure it's the most effective approach we will want to take. We understand our roles in being the liaison with the public, but at the same time, we need to know what we want to share with the public, what transparency we want to make sure that the public understands. So other opinions, please.
All right, I agree with you totally, because we don't want it to turn into a review of police violence or that complaining. So I think that the approach has to be why in the public hearing it's an attempt to explain the role of the Citizens Police Review Board, how we function, and then let them ask about our role questions that way, because otherwise I can just imagine people coming in angry, and we don't want that. That's not going to accomplish the public hearing is to, again, build a clearer understanding and support for what is good and what works, and also perhaps a suggestion, but not just a review of past errors.
Mr. Waters, am I still in the chair? Okay. Thank you, Sister Patrice. And those comments are worth us really taking into consideration. What are some of the other opinions of the board members? Mr. Williams.
My sentiment is a little different in the latter part of the year than it was earlier. I think given some of the things that were happening in our communities and how people were really the outcry about transparency and bringing it to making it rise to the level of awareness. I think earlier in the year, there was just a strong emphasis, and it should be a strong emphasis towards people wanting to see change. I think in the latter part of the year, I think our people have spoken. And by giving us more, an extension of more latitude and authority by the referendum vote, kind of speaks to what the citizens are asking for by empowering us to be able to do a little bit more as far as accountability. So my perspective is just simply had it earlier in the year, not saying I think Mr. Waters is dead on. I think we have to work at ways to make sure that we are not only showing that the police department, it should be transparent, should be held accountable, and we should be that bridging component to make sure that there's transparency and holding them accountable when necessary. My own personal sentiment is I kind of feel a little differently because now, based off of the vote and based off of what we just saw, that they have already spoken by empowering us to be able to do a little bit more. So that's all. I just want to bring perspective that my mindset only changes slightly about the need to hear from the community was much greater at the beginning part of the year, not discounting their voices. I think now they just given us process to be able to allow us to move forward to do some of the things that they were expecting whenever that stuff was coming up and emerging earlier in the year.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
I agree with Sheldon. I think that in the beginning, there was a lot more, I don't want to say chaos, but a lot more uncertainty. And I think the people have spoken. They've spoken loud and clear to give us, to follow our responsibility.
Thank you, Dr. Gershio. That leaves us at a point where we, and I'm trying to think of the correct parliamentary procedure to reconsider a vote so that we can have a democratic process here. So someone is more astute on the process than I am. Because we have 2 votes on a motion. So yeah, Mr. Waters.
I think there would have to be a new motion to rescind
The earlier motion.
the public
Mhm,
hearing
Hearing.
that we voted for.
yeah. All right, so I will call for a motion in that regard, if that is the wish of the board at this time. Ms. McClellan.
I make a motion to rescind the concept of a public hearing at this time.
I'll second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, a question? Mr. Waters.
Yes, I would like the vote to be taken individually, so each member has to vote yay or nay and have that recorded in the minutes.
Okay. All right, we will go based on how I see the members on my screen. Dr. Gershio? Yes. Okay, Mr. Green? Are you in favor of the motion?
You're muted, sir.
Mr. Green?
You're muted.
Can't hear you. Thumbs up or thumbs, okay, go ahead.
I have given entire soliloquies that no one has heard.
We read your lips.
Actually, I was just asking if you could circle back to me after
Okay.
other folks, because I just need another minute.
Okay, sure. Mr. Williams,
I vote yes for the motion.
okay. Sister Patrice,
Yes.
Ms. McClellan? Yes. Mr. Waters?
No, I do not vote in favor of the rescission.
Okay. Mr. Green, we're back to you.
We're back to me.
Yes.
I will vote yes with the proviso that it be clearly stated that we are not permanently.
That's part of the motion. Ms. McClellan said for the time being.
Okay.
She didn't indicate the time period, but she
All
did
right,
say for the
right.
time being.
All right. So I just want to be clear that we are remaining open to the possibility of doing it in the future.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is that 5 in favor and 1 opposed? Okay, all right. Okay, Mr. Waters, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you everybody for working with me through that process. Does anyone have any other unfinished business? Is there any new business? Then we'll go into our case review. I have the listing in front of me. I'll accept a motion to take the cases that are like together, unless you need any of them discussed individually. Trying to arrange my windows here so I can read and see. We have 2 cases before us for full investigation. They are 20420, 19220. Is there a motion to move both cases to full investigation?
So moved.
It's been moved
Second,
and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? I'm going to close the door because the dogs are barking. Thank you. Okay, we have 2 cases before us that are recommended as unfounded. They are case number 19720 and 17020. Is there a motion to dismiss both of these as unfounded?
So moved.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion passes. We have one set before us to dismiss for a lack of cooperation. It's number 23319. Is there a motion to dismiss it for lack of cooperation?
So moved.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, and the motion passes. We have one case that we've been requested to update and continue the suspension. It's case 2919. Is there a motion to maintain the suspension of this case?
I'll make it.
Is there a
Second.
second? It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion passes. We have 8 cases to enter into suspension. These are cases 15020, 13820, 13020, 12220, 11220, 5720, and 4120. And 320 and 23019. Yes, that's it. Is there a motion to suspend these cases?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes,
I have
Mr. Elwood.
I have a question regarding 13020.
All right.
I simply became confused as I read the account. The complaint had to do with a purse being lost or placed into the property area, a holding area. It sounds like the complainant is female. In paragraph 6, there's a narrative about the subject officer arresting a black male. I assume that's what BM stands for. And I became confused because I didn't know how that fit in with the narrative. And how does that relate to the complaint? Does anybody
13020.
see what I'm referring to? I became confused around the question of whether the complainant is a female or a male.
Yeah. Excuse me, Mr. Green.
Yes.
Stephanie, can you let Sherry in to speak, please? That's Miss Bridget's case.
Okay.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes, she's a female. What number are you referring to?
What case number or?
No, you said 13020, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes, that's a female. The officer who arrested her, I guess there were a bunch of officers in that area near the Boulevard of the Allies downtown. So
Right.
he was just handed that arrest, and all of the arrestees, their belongings were handed off to another officer. So he had no idea where her belongings went. I did contact the chief's office, and they are looking into it because I guess there were other complaints as well where belongings were misplaced, lost, or not found.
Well, my question wasn't so much about the process of what happened with the property, but my question was concerning the narrative in paragraph 6, which indicated that the officer was arresting, well, it says BM, and I assume that means black male. So
Wait one second.
Also, can someone check
1 second.
Marks, yeah, we got something in the chat too, so. Not sure if it's pertains
No,
to it.
no, that's her initials.
Oh, the person's initials.
Yes, that's her initials.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for these cases for suspension? And thank you, Dr. Grishio. I do see that there are comments. I'm believing they may belong at the end of the meeting where.
I just want to make sure, because that case was up.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of suspending these cases say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion passes. That concludes our case review for this meeting. We will have a time at the end of the meeting for comments and questions placed before us. We don't usually have a discussion back and forth, but we do take comments from our viewers.
Is this I just have a question of order, maybe. Because we're in a new format, not saying that this would be the case, but I particularly would like to have our deliberations between board members without the influence of people's comments. And I probably know I could probably close those out. I'm just saying broadly, if we're discussing matters with cases, I don't want comments, and I value what people have to say, but that's not the place for us to give input about what we're discussing. So I just want a point of order that they can raise all their issues, and that's fine, but they should never enter into our deliberation as we're trying to work through. And I be seeing those comments. I think it's wise for all of us to close the chat while we have our deliberations.
Correct.
Yes.
It would be an executive session, and those are always confidential.
I think, Mr. Williams, you raise an important point, and there is agreement among the board. So in the process of our meeting, we have a set protocol of the way we do things. We're provided with recommendations. We raise motions to either accept or decline those. And that is the meat of our meeting. At the end of our meeting, we always have a time period by which visitors who have come to see our meeting can speak. Because we're in an online forum that has a chat feature to it, it could easily lend itself to wanting to kind of get into a chat, but that is counter to the way our meeting functions. And the ability for people to say a comment at the end of the meeting is a critically important one because of the way it gives the community a voice. But our meeting was never intended to be a dialogue back and forth. And I believe that our investigators and our staff are always available to anyone in the community who want to have more of a dialogue. But our meeting is not it. And Mr. Sheldon, you're just reminding all of us, and it's also possible we've been doing this so long, we forget to remind the public of that as well. So thank you for bringing that up. And so I will call for public comment at the end of the meeting, and anyone who has a comment will be invited to share it at that point. Our announcements. Our next regular meeting is at 6 p.m. on January 26th. That's a Tuesday in 2021. I can't believe we're actually going to get out of 2020. Let's hope we all get out alive. And it will be at this time via Zoom and live cast on our YouTube channel, which is Citizens Police Review Board. Links to all of our public board activities are posted at cprbpgh.org, our website, and on our Facebook page. Our board meetings will remain online until further notice in observation of COVID-19 precautions. Okay, I would now like to open the meeting up for public comment. And as I said a minute ago, usually these are comments. They're not meant to be a question and answer period. And so is Steph, I don't see Stephanie. Did she go away? No, now I see her.
I'm here.
Are you managing letting people
Yes.
be able to speak?
Sure.
Okay. Could you help me? Who should I recognize to speak first?
So we have Mark Ozarks has he would like to, and then April chimed in as well.
Okay, well, you mentioned Tris first. So Tris, would you like to bring your comment to the board?
Let me let her in.
Oh, yes,
to
please.
speak. Yep. 1 second. Let's see. There we go. And okay.
Tris, do you want to unmute and bring your comment to the board?
They don't have a microphone.
Okay, we don't have a microphone. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do
You
have
can read
the-
her comment.
You want to read?
Yeah, there is a comment placed in the, Tris's comment has been placed in the chat. If it's acceptable to everybody, I'm just going to read that. Mr. Waters' comment on the public hearing seems to focus on explaining the police to the public. It could also explain the public to the police if they would listen. Mr. Williams and Dr. Grishio seem to say something similar to what I was thinking. The earlier request was equivalent to signing up to comment later. We don't have a microphone. Comment is from both of us. Okay?
Do you want me to let April in?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead, April.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Let's see, I'll try to make this not a discussion and more comment. I did just want to make it clear as far as the comments about the public hearing, that I too don't want to be in the business of finding fault with the police. You know, I've been here for over 2 years now looking for some accountability and transparency with the Copies Bar incident. And believe me, there's things I'd rather be doing, and I don't want to be all getting my blood pressure up over this once a month and losing sleep over it, and just, you know, praying that you guys can be the people that hold the police accountable in this situation. So I guess it is a question I have. Is there no public hearing now? And if not, then what? So how are you going to make sure there's accountability and transparency in the Copies Bar incident? And if you could please comment on, I know in the beginning we were talking about the home rule charter and the requirement for the police to cooperate. And I know that was already a requirement, but if the police can't cooperate with your investigations because of a lawsuit, how do you keep the police accountable and keep things transparent? Because I would imagine when there are atrocious things that happen within the department, that there are going to be lawsuits. And I also know that sometimes there are settlements and people aren't allowed to talk about it again. So, you know, if that were to happen or something, nobody's talking about what happened. It's as if there was no problem with it. That's all. Thanks.
I would just like to state that we did make a motion that removed a public hearing at the moment, but it did not take away the possibility of having a public hearing at another time. And I think my opinion on this is well understood, but I'll reiterate that our vote was only to not have a public hearing at this time, but there could be a public hearing at a later time.
If you could also look at the comments, I don't think the Ozarks were finished. And so because they don't have a microphone, I think we owe them the opportunity to add something. Ozarks, just type it away and we'll get it when it comes across. Ah, there we go. Mr. Waters, you just want to read that off to, or do you?
Happy holidays, everyone. Also want to recommend an article. I was waiting for it to get typed.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that part.
So the bottom line is the Ozarks are providing an article that they would hope that we would read. And I would encourage all the board members and anyone who has access, perhaps that URL can end up in our minutes. Stephanie, do we have any other comments while we're waiting for the Ozarks to type that into the chat? Yeah, the article is here. It's from the New Yorker, November 23rd. Thank you very much for sharing it. Stephanie, do we have anybody else who would like to speak? Looks like you're shaking your head no.
Sorry, I don't see anything.
Okay. We did have a okay. I am ready to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
It's
I'll
been
second.
moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, aye.
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 All those opposed?